Thanks everyone for joining our first workshop of this year, 2026, right? So our theme for today is Avatar. The topics that we're going to be talking about today, I've talked with a couple users, and like sometimes people ask me like how to use different scenarios and so on, or sometimes in a sport call I suggest people use different scenarios for specific reasons. So today I wanted to discuss a little bit how to work with multiple scenarios in your project, and we have a new update released as well related to the MP4 video export format. Some highlights that I want to show today about Formwork modeling and our new cmBuilder community, something that we are rolling out with the beta users teams and so on, and eventually we're going to start like inviting more and more people into this, and like everybody will have access to it so you guys can discuss some sketch updates as well, and then some tricks and tricks related to Chrome usage, screen callouts, and how to use some free support software to help you work in with your workflow, basically. Okay. So some housekeeping items over there. The recording of this session will be available today on YouTube. We have like a whole playlist. You can watch our previous workshops, and like basically every time that I talk about the workshops with new users, my description is this is how you become a power user in cmBuilder, how you go from like a beginner intermediate user, and like you start learning different ways and more creative ways of using the same tools to achieve better results on your simulations, right? And you guys are welcome to use the QA and the chat for questions. And today I will ask you guys to participate a little bit more on this first part on the working with multiple scenarios, because I want to know also your opinion on how you guys are using this this feature of cmBuilder. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Something quite basic. Everybody knows that you can create multiple scenarios in your project for many different reasons, right? So this is something that I'm gonna put in here some reasons why people do it and some considerations related to working within the project. And please participate as much as you can on the chat to let us know your opinion. Okay, so basically to create scenarios in cmBuilder, super easy. You're here in your project page and you have the ability to create a scenario from scratch, and you have the ability to also duplicate a scenario that already exists. And when you duplicate a scenario, you have the ability to choose what is the content that you're gonna bring to the new scenario. This is quite basic. Everybody knows about this already. You can create as many scenarios as you want, right? And you'll see here like when the scenarios were updated, who updated it, and so on and so forth. So what are the reasons that you would have multiple scenarios in your project, right? So I separated this in two different main categories. So the first one is construction optioneering. You are analyzing several options of your simulation. You're creating several versions of your simulation to compare, to track, and so on and so forth, right? So the first one is that I want to talk about is the schedule tracking, right? So you work in cmBuilder, you're gonna be, depending on the stage that you are working, you're going to create your simulation for, let's say, a pursuit, and then you have a version of that simulation. Once you win the project, now you're going to expand that and add more details, and you're going to create a baseline scenario where you're going to communicate with your team about like all the steps of construction. Later on, you might have different versions of that schedule, right? So like if this scenario over here that has option like dates and things connected to these dates, if later you have this scenario is connected to a schedule file, and all of these milestones, as you can see over here indicated by this icon, mean that these milestones are connected to the schedule, right? So later on, if you have the a new version of the schedule sheet that represents some delays or like changes in the dates, you can come in here and update the schedule, upload a new file, and then that file will go and change all of these dates that are connected to the previous schedule, right? So you can duplicate your baseline scenario, keep that as your kind of like initial idea of those steps, and then in these duplicates, you're gonna expand and like update the schedule file to show what has changed between this one and the next, right? Like after a month, after 2 months or weeks, and so on and so forth. Every time they have a new schedule version that is relevant in the changes, you can duplicate and keep that to track what are the changes and communicate better with your team and so on and so forth, right? Another idea is the equipment placement ideas, right? So if you're in a very early stage and you don't know yet what what are the different equipments that you're going to have available for you and so on and so forth, like that you're going to have to procure and whatnot. So you can create several scenarios to compare different layouts. So am I using one crane? Am I using two cranes? Am I using a fixed crane or a mobile crane, right? So where I'm going to be placing my hoists and trailers and all of that. So those different layout plans, they might have different considerations based on things that you don't know yet. So you can create these different layouts so you can communicate with your customers, with your team, and then once you know more information about it, you can go ahead and choose one to move along with it, right? So this gives you a lot of good visualization about things that might affect your budget, right? So having two cranes compared to one crane makes a huge difference in your budget. So this is an idea, especially for the superintendents that will have like spend more time figuring out where to place cranes. You can have scenarios that are specifically for crane placement. You don't want to create a whole scenario that shows a step-by-step of construction and so on and so forth. If you want to, you can have a scenario that will show the radius of a crane, and then you annotate and add a lot of information related to this crane over here because it's your first option, and then you duplicate this one, replace the crane with a different crane model, and then create the considerations related to that, and then you can compare those and see how that is going to impact your budget. Okay, so all of that can be applied to other equipment in the view as well. Traffic control plans, right? So scenarios that are focused only on traffic management, illustrating different ideas for vehicle management, pedestrian management, like showing different routes, showing different access points, and this is going to affect your deliveries and whatnot. Sometimes you want to like really focus on that and keep like a main scenario that shows the whole thing, the whole schedule of your project, but you can duplicate that and have just like milestones that will represent the changes on traffic control plans, right? So again, this can be referring to different teams as well. Different teams that are more involved in traffic controls, like others, they're schedulers that will be focused on schedule tracking and so on and so forth, right? We have a great example from one of our customers, HSFOps, that like did a presentation in our site plan summit last year, and one thing that stick to my mind is that they mentioned about the idea of illustrating a bad idea. Like sometimes you're communicating with a customer, that person has an idea of how you need to manage your traffic, you need to manage your access, and you're trying to communicate that that's not going to work. You go in cmBuilder, spend 5-10 minutes, illustrate that bad idea, and show what is your solution, because it's better to communicate that way than using drawings and so on and so forth, right? So this makes the communication flow a lot easier if you have the correct tools to create these communication plans, right? So excavation plans, you're going to communicate with your subtrades, and then you can create a scenario that subtrade will be working on that scenario and changing the plans and so on and so forth, right? So you can create different shoring options for that scenario, different underpinning agreements, things that you still have to discuss and agree with your neighbors. So that will impact which shoring option you're going to use. So you can create your different scenarios based on those kind of like different timelines that you would be able to follow, right? So look ahead reports. You can have one scenario that is focused only on that type of communication. And the reason why I'm saying that you can do that in different scenarios is because sometimes you don't want to have like a lot of information in front of you to communicate something that's like just a part of that work, right? So you can extract that by duplicating a scenario, focusing on that, right? So, and also simultaneous operations. I saw an example the other day of a customer. We cannot share here, but this customer was having like work being done above ground and underground in the same area, and they wanted to show how these two would interact. So basically, you could create like a whole scenario. You could create the scenario that would represent only the underground work, and then another one that would represent above ground work, and then you can overlap the images of these two to see how they will affect one another, right? Or maybe your project has a large footprint and you don't want to create one single scenario that will show everything like in that footprint. You can have like scenarios that will focus on specific areas, or scenarios that will focus on a detailed assembly. For example, you have one scenario that will focus on showing the overall sequence of like a prefabricated project, like a mass timber project, something like that. But you want to create also some sort of simulation to go into the detail of like minute steps of like, I'm going to place in this connection, I'm going to place in this column, then this other connection, then this beam, and so on and so forth. So you can create a scenario that it's a detailed simulation of a specific action and keep the overall one to represent the whole schedule. Okay. I saw something coming on the chat, so let me take a quick look. Ever?
Yeah, we do have a few questions I can help you with that. So first one is each scene a frozen version that cannot be updated, or can it be locked so that no one can change the history per scene?
You can lock your scenario. So if you are here, like as you can see, these two scenarios are locked, and this is something that you can just click over here and lock this scenario. So this will prevent people from changing it. It will force people to open the scenarios as a view mode. But anyone that has editing capabilities can unlock that scenario. It doesn't require any password or any sort of specific permissions to unlock it. If you have editing capabilities, you can unlock it. The idea here is to prevent people from doing changes without knowing, especially because everything in cmBuilder is being auto-saved. Okay, so Sonali, I'm going to show how we are going to do the comparison side by side in a minute. Okay.
And then we have another question from Amir, who's asking, can we create a couple of milestones and attach them to the same schedule item? Schedule usually high level, but in cmBuilder, we want to see more breakdown and at the same time, keep the relationship with the schedule.
So you can create more milestones at the same date. So if you have for example, let's say over here, clear site. So if I create another milestone after this one, and I put that into the same date, so this is 20th of January, so I can go over here and put this in the same date. When I have milestones that are on the same date, I will have this option here to choose which one comes first. What is the order of these milestones? So I want this one to be the second step of the same date. So like they will have the same date over here, but when you open this, you can see that they have like this indication of the sequence here on the side. Cool.
Okay.
Awesome. So these are all different ways of you comparing options in cmBuilder, right? So actually, I'm gonna bring this item here on the top. Did I bring the right one? Nope. I brought the wrong one. What is it? What is it? This one. Okay, cool.
Sorry, actually, before you move on, we do have a couple other questions. Grant's asking, is there a way to organize scenarios other than the date created?
No. So this is something that I would also like to get you. One of the reasons for this session today is to get you guys feedback about how would you like to see this page? What information, what type of views would you like to see in the scenario page, so we can organize and expose those information to you so you can manage them better. Like we have customers that have requested like, oh, I want to put scenarios on folders. I want to have a list view and things like that. So please let us know of the things that you think would be relevant for us to apply to this page to help you make decisions and find your scenarios better.
And then we have a question from Anthony about whether we've looked at master-slave scenarios. So basically, when we change one scenario, the other one changes as well. Or elements of it.
We don't have that option, but we will collect that to add to the roadmap, right? So there are elements that are shared between scenarios. Like for example, I'm gonna explain here in that like all scenarios we'll share the same map and so on. I'm gonna show a couple of like items that are the same for all scenarios. Cool. Okay. Awesome. So another reason that it would be relevant to have more scenarios is related to data management, right? So these were all construction options, but how can you improve your workflows when you're working cmBuilder using scenarios and leveraging that capability? So the first one is the internal versus shared, right? So sometimes when you create a link to a scenario, an external link, that means that whoever opens this scenario or this link will see will have view only capabilities to that simulation, and we'll know, like, we'll have everything that changes in here that person will be able to see. So sometimes you want to create a link that will be referring to a specific scenario that is what you want to share with your customer, but you want to keep progressing with another link with another scenario. So a different way to do that is to duplicate your scenarios, share a link with a customer. The person will have access to that scenario that is kind of like static in time, and then you progress and keep like adding more stuff on the second one. Once you reach to the point where you want to share this again, you can go and produce a new link. And to export a link, it's very easy. Just come in here in the export share, click on share live link, and then you choose the options of sharing that you want and send this to anyone. Any person without a login, any person can open that link. They don't need a login or anything like that. Cool. So, and also you can manage the links that you have created from the shared link dashboard over here, where this will collect all the links that were created for that project, right? So let me see this one over here that will probably have a lot more. And you can see like what are the different links that were created and who have accessed it, like what is the ratio, the ranking of the access and so on and so forth. You can also see the link activity, like where people access this from and so on and so forth. Cool. Update backup is a very important one. So sometimes you're gonna do some actions on your scenario that you want to that you don't know exactly what's going to be the final result of it. So let's say that you're updating a model and you don't know exactly where the new parts are going to come in. You're updating a schedule, you don't know what's going to change. So if you duplicate your scenario and update one of the duplicates first, so you can check like what is the impact that action is going to have and prevent any data loss. That's a very good practice to have. So duplicate that and do the updates on a scenario, or keep a backup and do the updates on the main one, right? So you can always have the option to revert that. Presentation options. So every scenario will only have one presentation. So sometimes people can want to share different things, create different presentations according to the same scenario. So we don't have that capability yet. So what you can do right now is to duplicate your scenario and then create different camera angles, create different callouts, different ways of viewing it, that same simulation, remove some milestones from one and so on and so forth, so you can share only what is relevant and what the other person can see. Okay, so this, you can create different presentation options with your scenarios as well. Team collaboration. This is kind of like having a master to slave scenario, like Anthony mentioned, but this is something that we apply only to premium subscribers in up, that you can copy paste elements in between scenarios. So I can copy elements over here, like I already showed this in another workshop, where you can copy your elements from one scenario and then go to the other one and then paste it over there, right? So where is it? This one. So like if I duplicate this guy and do scenario 2, then I can paste those elements on the second one. So that way you can have one master scenario that will be the main one that you're going to be working and sharing with people, and you can have people creating working on these other smaller scenarios and populating the first one, right? So you can divide the work between your team. Like you're going to work on safety measures, you're going to work on traffic control, you're going to work on sequencing and blah, blah, blah. And then all of these people will be feeding information to the same scenario to have that collaboration aspect of it and kind of like simultaneous work being done within your team. Locked backups. We talked about this already. So you can create backups to have like a snapshot in time of the work they've done and lock it so and prevent people from changing it. And safe testing, like we are always kind of like developing new features and so on and so forth. And sometimes you want to try something new on your simulation that you don't know exactly what is going to be the result of that action. So create your duplicates so you can safe test and like apply specific things or like try different features to do that. Cool.
Just to jump in there, Amir had a question about what's the best way to create a consolidated view of multiple scenarios. So for example, they manage excavation or traffic, logistics, etc., in various different scenarios, and then want to be able
just
to
me
consolidate.
or is it like
Is
Nikan is
something wrong
breaking
with
for
my
everyone?
audio?
Your audio is failing a lot, Nikan. I'm not sure if it's just me or not.
Is that better now?
I think it's just you, Pedro, because it's clear for me. It's clear for
Okay.
everyone else. I think, and you're choppy to us, Pedro.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
really?
You've cut out a few. You've cut out a few times, yeah.
Yeah, right now you're okay, but yeah, you have cut out a few times.
Okay.
Can you hear me
Apologize
now?
for that,
Okay.
guys. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, Amir's question is around like consolidating scenarios. So they set up various different aspects of their site plan in different scenarios. So say traffic management in one scenario,
Mhm.
excavation in another, and want to be able to consolidate. So I guess this goes back to your comment about using
Yeah.
the advanced duplicate. Currently, the best way that we have to do that is, obviously you can build one scenario and then duplicate that as a starting point and then modify from
Exactly.
there. And then the other one would be for changes beyond that would be using the advanced duplicate feature.
Yeah, exactly. I deactivated the optimize function on Teams. I think that was what was making things choppy. So let me
Was
know if it's still
unoptimizing?
happening. Yeah, it was doing the opposite.
De-optimized? What is the opposite of optimized?
So I know there's a lot of things like interactions going on in the chat. We probably won't have time to go through everything, but like we will read that and like grab the information, and if there's something that we have the answer, we will follow up on an email to let you guys know. Okay. So things to remember when working with multiple scenarios, right? So all scenarios will share the same map. So if you decide to go into your project and change the map data, this will affect all scenarios. So like if I go over here and edit the map data, I can't even change this map data if there is anyone editing a scenario. Everybody has to close that so I can go in here and change, right? So this is a question that comes up a lot where people like say, oh, I want to change my map size. I want to change it from topographic to flat. I want to change the address. So this is how you do it. You click over here on the edit map and you do that, but it will apply to all scenarios, okay? B models and updates will be available for all scenarios, and they can be managed on the documents page here. So if you're working with this scenario and you have created like all your duplicates and whatnot, and in this one you update the model, this will be triggered on that while you have that session open, right? So basically to update a model, you can simply come in here and you can right click and then update with a new model and import a new model for this scenario, right? So this will, if with your session open, you can have it the trigger for the update right away. But for the other scenarios, there will be a little warning over here that people will have the ability to decide if they want to update or not, right? So if I'm working with this and I don't want to like mess up with anything that I've done, I can simply ignore that update and move along. Okay. So schedule files will also be available for all scenarios. So every scenario that uploads a schedule will make that schedule available for all the scenarios. And the drawings are stored in individual scenarios. So if you upload a drawing to one scenario, it will be referring to just that one. And if you want to, like another scenario to have that same drawing, either you upload it again, or you just simply duplicate and carry the drawing from one to the other. Or if you have the advanced duplicate, you can copy paste the drawing to one or the other. Okay. There is no limit in scenario quantity, so you can create as many as you want. And the permission levels will apply to the whole project. So there's no permission applied to just one scenario. You cannot say define that one person is an editor in one scenario and is a viewer in another. This is something that might change later. But if you like, if it's relevant for you guys, just let us know in the chat that we will know that this is something that you would like. And any editor can unlock any scenario. Okay. And talking about the way to compare two scenarios, Google Chrome has this new tool that allows you to create a split view between tabs. So you have a quick way to compare two scenarios at a time. Because if you duplicate and you change things on the second one, you can now have like these two view in the same window, but within the same tab. And as far as I know, it's not available for Edge yet. And if you want to do that, basically you just need to select two tabs over here. Like, so I select hold control and I select these two tabs, right click, and then there is this option now called add tab to new split view. So when you do that, now this tab here is showing both the simulations at the same time. So I can go and navigate between these two to compare what has happened that is different between those two, right? So if I go with the first one, milestone over here, I can like see the difference in the site mobilization on this scenario and the site mobilization in this one. So if I go to the bulk excavation milestone, I can go and see the bulk excavation in this one is different, like the shape of the excavation is different. So these are two different excavation plans that I can compare and discuss what is more relevant for each one of them. Okay, so if you want to detach the split view, you can right click, go into arrange split view, and you can manage these over here, and you can separate the views and then they will just separate. So this is quite interesting. I've shown this to a couple customers and like they really like the capability to do so. Okay, so I see that people already like communicated a lot in the chat. So please share other reasons why you are currently creating your scenarios, multiple scenarios right now, something that I haven't like touched base over here, and let us know what you guys would like to have added to that view or other capabilities, because we want to increase that sense of collaboration on working with multiple teams, but also during the construction time. Like we want our cmBuilder to be used during construction, and we know that having these different versions is really relevant at that stage. Cool. So let's jump into an update on our tool. So now this is something that a lot of people have requested, the ability to export videos on MP4 format, right? So along with that, we also, this new tool allows you to have smoother exports. So when you're exporting your video, like things like the camera movements will be way smoother, and like the whole presentation will be smoother. And also this is compatible with different animation speeds, right? Because you don't need to record, you don't need to choose what is the speed that you're going to record the video, but the video is going to be recorded way slower than normal. So this is because we are actually capturing every frame of that video and collecting them and putting them into a compiled video. So this frame-based export is kind of like a rendering that takes a little bit longer to do. So the new way to do that is basically you just go into, let me see if this is the milestone that I want to share. Yeah. So if I have my presentation here, I've done this presentation, but I made like every single one of these slides super quick. And to do a multi-edit of your slides, you can hold control and select a bunch of them and then decide like what is going to be the duration for the slides. So I made them super quick because otherwise this would take a long time for us to export over here. But basically, on the export share function now, you have this new presentation video. There's a little tooltip over here explaining what's going on. And you have the ability to do the legacy export that we had before with WebM, but now we have our main method is the MP4, right? So you still have the ability to choose your video quality, and this will depend on the quality of the screen that you're recording. So if you have like a 4K monitor, 2K monitor, you will still carry that resolution into the final video. My monitor here is not that great, so the final resolution is not going to be amazing, but I still have to allow my browser to record my screen. And when I do that, I need to hit play and move my mouse away because this will start recording. Right now, it might not look like it's recording, but if you look at the bar below over there, like it's showing the actual progress. And even though the screen is not moving, the camera is not moving, it doesn't mean that this is going to be the final output. The final output is going to be a compilation of the whole thing, right? So I will not, let's see how long it's going to take. Okay, so as you can see, like I'm not sure how choppy is it on your end right now because of Teams, but this is moving way slower because it's capturing every single one of those frames. So I hope that this won't take too long because I want to show you guys the final result. And that's why I made those slides way smaller. Yeah, so you don't need to keep like messing with your animation speeds. This was like a problem of the previous version, right? So, oops, I made that part of the animation in the wrong stage. But now like the thing will run end to end completely, and like the animations will adapt to the presentation regardless.
While you're waiting for that, we have a question about, can we hide milestone and schedule details in a shared link?
You can hide the milestone. You can choose which milestones will be in the share link because the share link will show whatever is in the presentation. So you don't hide, you do that on the presentation view. You decide which dates and which slides you want to include on the presentation. And for the information about the milestones or the timeline at the bottom, this is on the presentation settings. Once this is done recording, I will show you how to get there. I should have done this with way less milestones to make it quicker. I apologize for this. Yeah. And hoots, we are almost there. There you go. So this will take some time to export the video, and once it's done and reaches the end, we get like an MP4 file now that will be, again, like the Teams call over here is going to be different, but like as you can see, the speed of everything is way faster and way smoother. It kind of like behaves the way that it's supposed to, related to all the speeds of all the milestones. Cool. It's just like a rendering in any video editing tool. This exports all the frames. Okay. So to the question about like deciding what to include and what not, you can always go over here in the presentation view, and you can choose if you want to hide a milestone altogether or if you want to hide just a slide, right? So if you hide these and you share your presentation, your link, the person won't be able to see those milestones. And related to the information that shows on those labels, you can click over here in presentation settings, and you can choose to, for example, for the dates, if you change from calendar date to relative date, this will like remove the calendar date over there, and it just show like a relative spacing between the dates. And you can choose not to like display the timeline at the bottom, not to display the label. It's up to you, right? So you have control of like what is the type of information that you want to show on your shared links. The presentation will affect that. Okay. So okay, cool. So let's go now into Formwork modeling, right? So this is something that a customer recently asked me, like, hey, how can I model the Formwork on my site quickly, just to represent like that stage? So the suggestion here is to use a combination of features to create that stage, right? So as you can see over here, I'm gonna use the massing to create the panelly shape, the shape of the slab. And also you can create a massing to represent this partial completion of the pouring. And in this view, we have resources. The rebar is made from resources. This slab edge formwork over here is also made from resources. The shoring elements and these people are all resources. So let's go into a milestone here that let's say that I want to create the slab, the formwork for the level 5. So basically what I do is I go to the next milestone, I select that slab, and then I go back, and then I do a temporary show because I want to see that slab at this view, right? So now I'm going to create all those kind of like elements, right? So I'll start with my massing. So I will click to start the massing, and I'm going to use the project function to select the slab. So I don't need to draw this shape all again from scratch. So when I hit confirm, I have a slab over there that is, oh, sorry, a massing that is exactly the same shape of the slab. And then you can put the height of like your formwork panels over here, a color that would represent that formwork. And now the next step is just to move this guy downwards so it will align with like the slab. And to do that quickly, you can click on snap to face, select this face, and then select this face, and they will snap with one another. Okay, so oops, I canceled the action. So let's do that again. Click somewhere else. There you go. So now I have the panel over there that represents the slab, but your formwork panel will always be a little bit bigger than your slab. So you can go into the sketching again, and you click on offset to create an offset and bring this guy outwards, right? So when you hit confirm, now my massing panel over there is a little bit bigger than my slab. Okay, next step is to create the slab edge over here. So there is a formwork resource that's called concrete edge formwork. And then I can click on this guy and I will do exactly the same thing. I'm going to start my sketch over here, the same elevation as my massing. Then I'm going to click on project, select the slab, hit confirm, and then that slab edge is done over there. Okay, so now I don't need this slab anymore because I already reused the shape that I wanted. So I can reset the temporary hide and show that I applied to it, and I get my formwork done with the slab edge. So I can go extra to like another level over here by going to the resources and then putting my shoring tower scaffolding. So with this, you could add like every single one of these if you wanted to, but probably that's not that relevant at this stage. So you can do them as a polyline. So with a polyline, it's going to be more like a schematic way of placing these this formwork. So I'm going to just draw like a shape over here that would represent like some sort of approximation on how this formwork would be placed. If you need to know exactly where every tower will be, you would be able to do so, right? So just by adding them manually. And now these formwork will be like that. You can go into the spacing and then do a custom spacing and just put a spacing that would fit your project over here. Then you can go into the adjust function, bring this guy upwards, and so on and so forth, right? So now I have my formwork done over there very quickly, and I can go into the resources and then select the mesh bar. So the mesh rebar, I can put them as a point, just like the other elements, or as a polyline. When I put them as a polyline, I will draw the shape over here from above, and I will also snap this line to this face because I want the rebar to start over there. And I can do the same thing with this point and this face. Okay, so when I hit confirm, my rebar is going to be placed over there. I can simply drag this guy all the way up to the end, and I could do the same thing on the other side over here. I'll skip that because it will be exactly the repetition of what I just did. Okay, so what else is missing over here?
Pedro, I'm cutting you off. Slab edge protection, safety share in the chat. Sure. Put some slab edge protection or guardrails or on the or handrails on the slab edge.
Protection. So there is a bunch of different types over here. I will use this wood frame, and same idea. You click on something, the project function of the sketch, I cannot stress this enough on how this can make your life easier. You select another object that was created by a sketch or an existing shape of a slab or like a part of your model, and then it just draw it for you, right? So there you go. So now I have my little handrail over here. I don't know exactly where it's supposed to be offsetted over here from the formwork, but you guys got it, right? So that's the idea. And then it's up to you to define what is the level of detail they want to place. If you want to keep like adding more things like I did with the like a partial completion of this slab, you can go in there and then project the shape of this formwork. Let's get the shape of the formwork, and then I will just hold control, move these the slab edge over here, and I can select these lines, delete them, create my arc, and do like a little shape over here to represent that my concrete pour is going into that direction. Put like concrete color in there, and then do this. And again, the sky's the limit over here. You can like keep playing with this and add a lot more resources if you want to. Okay. There you go. So yeah, again, it's a combination of like different features to achieve a result that will make it look like better in the end. Okay, and of course, every time that you're placing these elements over here, they will start in a milestone at this milestone that I'm working on right now, and it will stay until the end. So for these lab elements, I'm gonna just hold control, select them all, deselect this crane, and I will end them at this milestone. And I will also, the massing, when you create a massing, it starts and ends like it, every time you create a massing, the start and the end date is the beginning and the end of the project. So I'm gonna just define that this is gonna begin and end at this milestone. This is gonna begin and end at this milestone. So now if I go back, none of those elements are there. If I go forward, they are there. And if I go forward again, they're gone. And maybe you wanna keep your shoring, so you can go in here and they'll just adjust where the shoring is gonna be placed. Cool. There you go. So this is a way to illustrate your formwork stage. Okay. Moving on. Sketch updates. So there are a couple things that I already showed over here that I didn't mention, but we now have some extended capabilities for the sketch. So you can now undo and redo like actions on the sketch. So if I click on this guy over here and I edit the sketch and I move this over here by mistake, I can simply hold Ctrl-Z in my keyboard and it will undo the action. The same will apply over here on the top. If you click on this, it will undo that action. If you want to redo, you can do it like that. So there's something that customers have requested a lot because working with the sketch, like you're gonna make mistakes, of course, and then the undo and redo function, we're greatly happy with that. The move function, we kind of like rearranged the tools over here. So the move function went all the way down here and now it's called select. So basically if you double click if you click on this and you click it again, you just move in that option. And all the constraints now, they're kind of like what we call the smart constraint. So for example, if I redraw this and I want to draw a shape like that, I want to snap this face to the face of the slab, or to the formwork, this to the face of the formwork, and so on and so forth. Before, I would need to keep triggering the constraint all over. Like every time that I clicked on the snap and clicked on this, I would need to go and click on the snap again. But now, I don't know if you can notice, but on my cursor over there, there's a little icon that says that like there is an action, a constraint action active, and I can clicking on lines and clicking on the faces to keep doing my snapping as I want, right? So I don't need to trigger the same action several times. So this is just like a little addition to make you like work faster. And of course, you can always, whenever you're working with any of these tools, if you double click, it will end that tool. Okay. So a couple updates.
Pedro, can I cut you off?
Whoop.
Can I cut you off?
Yeah, of course.
Quick question. How do you show each floor being built in the color green? So you want to just show growth profile and the color presentation visuals?
Yeah. Yes, sure. So like this already is applied to this model, but if I wanna like highlight the colors or like create an animation on how this will show up, like for example, if I go over here and I drag this animation that you see over here is created on what we call the presentation visuals, right? So if I get out of my presentation mode, I can double click on any part in cmBuilder and you click on presentation visuals and you will decide which animation type you're going to do. So this is going to be a new construction. So I want to apply a new construction animation to it, which means that when this object shows up in my view, this animation is going to be applied. If I apply a demolition animation, it means that when the object goes away, the animation will apply. And basically this you define where you define your highlight color, your grow, and shrink animation. So the slab, I don't want to show the slab growing from bottom up. This would apply mainly for columns and walls, but a slab, I can make it grow sideways. And then I can decide over here, what is the angle in which I want this to grow, right? So if I change this now to this angle, the slab will start over here and then end over here, right? And I can choose if I want this animation to apply to the individual elements that I'm selecting right now, or if it's the whole model. So the difference is that a whole model is that you show a whole group of parts and you slide that whole group of parts at once. Individual elements, every element we will slide in its at the same time, like they will start at the same time. Okay. Cool. So this is just a quick review. There are other videos related to the presentation visuals that you guys can go check. Okay.
Pedro, one more.
Yep.
Pedro, one more. So Sonali asks, can you just show how if you're in presentation edit mode, how you can use the scrubber to just show the animations happening, but it doesn't link to the color change, right? You can show the growth profiles in presentation edit mode. Maybe show that.
This one?
Yeah, I think that's what she asked. I'll read her question. So, is there a way to have the presentation visuals visible in site navigation mode while working?
While working, while working, you would have to the presentation views over here. You can have like presentations in preview, changes in the viewer, but this is when you're applying it. When you're doing the work, and like if I get out of this, that preview is gonna go away. So you have, if you turn this off, you can click on this to view what's gonna happen, and you can like do a presentation preview over there that will start the presentation at that point onwards, just so you can review what's going to happen with that animation.
Just to add to that, because of our different flow now in the presentation edit mode, technically that's while you're doing work, while you're editing, right? It's not, it's differentiated from our presentation play mode. So yes, you can view it in there as you were showing.
Yeah,
just
and also
using presentation edit mode.
We are gonna change this layout a little bit, like from, as far as I know, from the design team, like we're gonna bring that capability for you to define the presentation visuals here on the presentation mode. But also now the presentation mode, you can actually edit elements. So if you are in the presentation mode, you want to change these visuals, you don't need to get out of this, go into navigation mode to change that. You can simply change this right from here. Okay. Cool.
And then while you're on the topic, a question from Koi, can we make coloring of building models dynamic to show active finished areas, especially for still images? Current workaround is using zones and annotation to highlight.
So this is something that's coming. We will have like a different way to apply these presentations, where you'll be able to select a list of milestones over here, and you define like which color will apply to which milestone. So at the moment, you need to create like the same view with like some workarounds. And there's a video that I did for that, like in the past. It's called the color coding schemes. But this is going to be applied to the tool where you're going to have like a list of these milestones and say, I want at this milestone, this part is going to look like that. This milestone, this part is going to look like that, and so on. Cool. Okay. So there was one last thing that I want to talk about the sketch, is that for every user, and new user and existing ones, always remember to, whenever you're working on your sketch, remember that you have some settings over here that you can change. Okay, so these settings allow you to define how you're going to view your sketch. So length, angle, you can show a bunch of them at once and whatnot. For every new user, the snapping sketch is turned on by default, and this will, like, I prefer to work with it turned off because it just makes it like the sketching a lot flowier. Is that a word? I don't know. It flows better. And you can do a lot with the snapping just by holding shift, because then you can create like constraint movement, so like if I create a line over here and I hold shift, this next line will be placed with a 45-degree increments of the previous one. If I am moving this point and I hold shift, I will move only according to that line, right? So there are a couple of things that just holding shift will will already make it easier for you. But another thing is that this last option over here shows previous massing. This is different depending on the tool that you're using. So right now I'm editing a massing and this is turned off. So I cannot see the massing that I'm working on. But if I turn this on, I will see the shape of that massing, right? The same thing applies to the resources. So if I start editing a resource, that resource is gone because it's not viewed in my sketch. But if I show a live preview, I can see the changes that like will be applied to that resource in real time. Okay, so it's up to you to define what it works best for you, but keep in mind that you have like more capabilities on the sketching tool on this settings menu. Okay, cool. Already talked about a lot of stuff already. So one thing that we are rolling out right now, that's the cmBuilder community. It's something that I want to share with you guys, and I really hope that everybody starts using this more, because we get notified about all the interactions in the community, like if someone puts a comment and so on and so forth. So this makes it easier for us to understand what you guys want. But basically, if you go into our support center now, only if you scroll all the way down, there is this new button over here, community, where when you click on it, you're gonna see two tabs over here, topics and posts. So topics is basically the main kind of like topic where like the comments will be, like the conversations will be. And we have these 4 topics going on right now because like these are related to the latest features. And at the moment, only we can create new topics. So we will eventually allow people to create topics as well, but we're just testing this out, see how everything is going on. And posts are basically the conversations that will happen inside of each topic. So if I open here a post that I did related to like a feedback for the Google beta tile thing, right? So Shane answered, and Anthony came here, talked about it. Mike did something, and then blah blah blah. There's a whole conversation over here that refers to this specific issue that I raised, and this is what I think that would be a very interesting way for you guys to converse, to talk among each other, right? To comment on things and share knowledge and so on. So eventually, this will become like expand, and we have more capabilities so people can collaborate. Cool. Awesome. So
just one thing to add there, the Google Tiles topic, you will only see if you're part of the beta program there. And we will be rolling that out publicly or to all users in the next few weeks.
Yes. Okay. So moving on to tips and tricks, there are 2 little things that I want to talk about over here. So screen callouts as text box. This is just one thing that I've showed to a couple customers. Basically, sometimes people want to create text box that will be following the screen without a leader. So just showing how you can do that, right? So you can create text boxes that will follow your screen, and it will be easier to read and in documents and so on and so forth. So if I want to, for example, if I place in a label here, this label is static, right? It doesn't move along with my screen. So if I'm looking this way, I can not see that, right? But if I change this to be a callout, which I can create as a callout from scratch, or simply add a leader over here, this will make it change to be a callout. It will appear with this leader, right? So what is the catch over here is that you can adjust this label to not have the leader at all, and still follow your screen. So we can go into the adjust function, and I will click on face label to screen. So this is following my screen wherever I go, right? So you can change the stem location to D, which will make it like show at the bottom of your text box. And basically you can zero all of these values over here, and this will make it as a label over there. So let's move this guy to another location here. Boom. Right. So we can go in and do this. Probably here was not a good location, but if I go back and move this, I can bring it over here. And there's a little sphere over there. This sphere, it adapts with like the zoom. So like it doesn't adapt with the zoom. So like it's always going to be the same size. So if you zoom out, like the sphere can be in front of your label. So now if you go and scroll all the way over here to the bottom, you can put the sphere radius to be 0, and that sphere is gone. 0, 0, 0. There you go. So now when I hit done, I have a little call out, a text box over there that's following my screen at all times. Of course, if there are things in front of it, you won't be able to see it, but this can give you like a way to identify elements in your view without having the leader, right? And you can move this around like the way that you want. So there is 2 options for moving this text box. One is click on the move function outside of the adjust function, which basically will move the whole object. But if you click on reposition and if you click on adjust and you interact with these commands over here, you're actually extending the leader, right? So depending what you want to do, you're gonna choose one option or the other. Okie dokie. Quick small tip that like can help you create better views for your simulations. And the last thing that I want to show is that is a suggestion for everyone that's working with this, that there's a software called Beam Vision that is a free software that is an IFC viewer. So a lot of times people import IFC models into cmBuilder and they get a result that they are not expecting, and they think that that's an issue with the cmBuilder conversion. But the issue might be on the export file, right? So let's say that you get a Revit file and export to IFC, a Tekla file and export to IFC, and in that export, a lot of parts are missing because the configurations simply remove them. And then when you bring it to cmBuilder, those parts are not there. And then people like ask like, hey, what's going on? Why my conversion didn't work? So the first thing that I always say is like, open that IFC file first before you bring in to cmBuilder, if there's a problem, right? So you're not gonna do this all the times, but if you open that file in another software just to check where the problem is, if it's an export on the import, this can help you a lot. And Beam Vision is a great suggestion for that because it's free. It's very quick to open IFC files, and you can see a lot of information in here. And this is something that this suggestion for IFC files, but if you're working with FBX and Navisworks files, you can do the same thing with Navisworks Manage, for example. That will allow you to open these other files, right? And also with Beam Vision, there are some plugins that you can download, and these plugins are paid, but it's a lifetime license. And if you download these plugins and install, you can do more things. So there's a plugin to split this IFC file into different files. So you can like hide a bunch of things, and like you can leverage the Beam Vision capability to work with different structures over here. So I could like hide all of these element assemblies over here or all these beams, and then export this file as an IFC, and as an IFC split, and this will only export what is visible, for example, right? So these 3 different plugins are things that are quite interesting because you can have more capabilities on editing IFC files and work with attributes and so on, and especially the IFC edit. I haven't tested that like a lot, but I know that you can select like an element, for example, you can edit the properties of that element and so on and so forth. So you can change a couple of like IFC attributes values that are attached to that element, right? But this is just like a suggestion, so you can have like another tool in your tool set, because it's a very quick and light software to use. But the thing is that we are also like very soon we're gonna have like additional featuring capabilities in the tree structure, and also like in our roadmap we have the plan to allow you to work with more IFC attributes that are not just level and class. Okay. So that's it. We are here at the brink of the hour. So we successfully went through all the topics, right? I really love the engagement that we had today on the chat and the QA. That was awesome. The team is gonna love to review like all the comments and all of that. But today we talked about working with multiple scenarios, MP4 exports, Formwork modeling, community, sketch updates. I got interrupted by Javi several times. Thanks, Javi. Little shade over there. Chrome split view, text boxes, and Beam Vision, right? So it was amazing. The main part of this workshop is done. So if you guys want to hang around to ask further questions or suggest topics for the next workshops, that's awesome. And yes, cool.
Pedro.
Yes.
While we're warm, Troy has a question. How did you automatically put formwork around the slab? You want to just quickly, you want to hang out for another minute and just show Troy?
Yep.
Thanks,
yes,
everyone.
Exactly. So to do the automatic shape is basically you just need to have like a reference shape. Let's say this one over here. So I'm gonna select that shape, temporarily show it over here, and then we will create a massing. And basically the tool that you're asking for, the is this one over here, project. So this is a tool that is available in every sketching. So whenever you're gonna sketch something, a zone, a line, a massing, a resource, an excavation, you have this project function. The project function allows you to select an existing beam import shape or an existing object that was created in cmBuilder using a sketch. And then when you click on that, it just creates the sketch for you, like your starting point for that sketch right away. So then you can click on offset, bring this sketch outwards a little bit. And when I hit confirm, I now got my my massing created over there. I'm gonna move this one down a little bit, and I'm gonna use the snap to face and then snap to face option. And I have my formwork done with that same shape. Cool. Yes. Okay. I would recommend a feature to quickly isolate a model element so that we can add resources around it. Of course, we already have that feature. Great. So for example, I can right click on this model, this part of the model, and simply temporarily hide everything else. So this isolate everything. Everything is hidden but the model, right? So the model, but the map. So the only thing that doesn't get temporarily hidden is the terrain itself. And if you want to really isolate this, you can go in the map and Formwork over here, and then click on hide, and then this will allow you to create that, right? So this applies to multiple selections as well. So if I select a bunch of things, let's say a bunch of model parts, right click, temporarily hide everything else, and that will go in like this is applied to the active selection.
And then we have a question from Jack. Did you see that one? Does the MP4
Nope.
export allow you to have flyover walkthrough views similar to how Navisworks operates?
I don't believe so, because like the flyover, only if you create the camera angles that you want to create that flyover, but the fly mode and walk mode, they are not enabled on the MP4s. Especially because like it's being recorded with a way kind of like slower speed, so it'll be hard for you to control that. But if you create the camera angles in the slides to create that action, that kind of like that visuals, you'll be able to do so. Like I can create like a slide that would be like focus over here, capture this camera angle, and then another one that's like here in the front, oh, sorry, I recaptured the same camera angle and I add another slide. So do that, and you create another slide over here, add a slide. So you're gonna have like this kind of like effect of like a fly through or something like that. So it's basically you can control the camera angles to create the effect that you want. Right, that would be the way to do this right now.
Thanks. And then Amir is asking is if we could have basically a box and a box like a donut shape in sketches to have like like a void in between.
Not yet. That's a feature request that we will add to our roadmap. But like we already have like this request a couple times, especially for the massing tool for you to create like courtyards and things like that. So we haven't yet like got there, but we will add your comment to the same thing.
Yeah, it's being worked on as far as I know.
Shane
There you go.
just
Shane said
answer
confirmed soon.
Okay. Cool. Anything else?
Thanks, everyone.
Yes. See you all. Have a nice one.
Have a great rest of your day.